The regular human
so
shorts.
fucking ghetto, dude.
The regular human shorts.
You're gonna build this from even fucking undies. I don't know where my pants are.
Hi, doggy.
You're my favorite customer.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, at least for the review. Then whip your undies. Wear whatever, but these don't fit, but I'll pretend they do. They don't have to fit. They just have to. Like, you can't wear undies.
Hey everybody, today we watched The Disaster Artist. Aidan, what is the plot of The Disaster Artist?
The Disaster Artist is based on the book The Disaster Artist about the making of the movie The Room, and it goes through some of the stuff that happened before The Room was made and the making of The Room, the most infamous bad movie of all time. And that's pretty much all you need to know about it as far as the plot goes. So Connor, what'd you think of The Disaster Artist? I was going to call it The Room, but The Room is the movie that The Disaster Artist is based on.
The Disaster Artist is an okay movie. It was alright. Story-wise, I thought the story was pretty engaging. There were moments that kind of ended up dragging and got a little boring, but the whole making of the movie part was incredibly fun, which is interesting because Ed Wood, to put that in comparison, Ed Wood was really interesting the whole way through, where this one did kind of drag at points. But the story between Tommy and, what was his name again?
Greg
Sestero was pretty interesting because it was kind of this friendship, but Greg kind of was really normal, where Tommy was fucking weird.
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
And Greg was kind of just like, at first he was kind of just friends with the guy out of intrigue, then they kind of became actual friends, and that was pretty interesting to see that friendship develop as the movie went on, where it had its hiccups, its up and downs. But ultimately, I think the best part was really watching Tommy and Greg film The Room. Obviously, we had a bunch of guest stars. Seth Rogen. We had the dude who played Andre on the League. I don't remember his name.
Hannibal Buress was there.
Hannibal Buress, Nathan Fielder, Zac Efron, the guy from Hunger Games. So there were quite a few actors that wanted to show up, which got kind of weird. There were some things with the cast that was kind of weird. I almost wish they were more unknown. You have a lot of these big names in there, and it was just kind of weird. I don't know if they go to actor parties and make fun of The Room or how they all came together to make this, but it was just a whole bunch of actors that were kind of making this for fun. Whether or not, whatever reason they decided to be in on this project, probably mostly just because James Franco's like, hey, you want to be in on this? And they're like, yeah, that'd be pretty funny. And, it was pretty funny watching the making of The Room. Another thing with the casting was I thought it was kind of awkward with Dave Franco playing Dave. Wait, who? Greg, I'm sorry. Dave Franco playing Greg, and James Franco playing Tommy Wiseau, since they were the leads, and they look pretty similar. You can tell they're brothers.
The movie had homosexual undertones.
Lots of homosexual undertones in there, which was kind of weird. I think part of it was just that Tommy Wiseau's a weird-ass, European guy.
I think they
and
shot
they
it
wanted
like that
to
intentionally.
I think
the book did not feel that gay.
No, and I think they definitely put that in there because it's James Franco, and James Franco's like, I'm a weirdo with my sexuality, so I'll shoot a movie where I basically make a movie where I'm gay for my brother. So that was pretty much what they ended up doing with this movie. So that was kind of strange. I thought there were some touching moments in it, some moments that were kind of showing Tommy as an asshole, but really humanized these people we saw in the movie. The performances were pretty good for the most part. James Franco, I think, did a good job capturing Tommy Wiseau, but it's kind of hard to fully capture the weirdness of Tommy Wiseau. James Franco also, even trying really hard, does not look nearly as weird and ugly. No offense to Tommy Wiseau, but as weird and ugly as Tommy Wiseau, and can't really fully capture it. So even looking at the side-by-side comparisons, it's like Tommy Wiseau is a better terrible actor than James Franco. Like the delivery and the timing, like it was James Franco trying incredibly hard to be as bad as Tommy Wiseau was, and it just does not work because Tommy Wiseau is pretty much next level when it comes to bad acting. So that was something. Other than that, I have small problems with the movie. Oh, Nathan Fielder was in it too. Shout out to Nathan Fielder. I love that guy. Nathan For You season 4 was great. But my big problem with this movie, and it pissed me off, I don't know how they shot this movie, but I would assume it was on a tripod, but they still had like a shaky cam throughout the whole movie. And it was really bad in that first stage scene where it was Greg and Tommy in the theater doing their first acting thing, where it looks like it's a huge, it was probably whatever camera they fucking had, some nice ass 4K HD official movie camera, that can shoot up to like 8K, but they can only do 4K because of the technology that exists, but yet they're still like moving it around and shaking it, and it's like, we can tell, like, it looked weird because it looked like intentional shaky cam, and it was kind of unnecessary. I don't know why they did it, if it was like just to look more arty or something, like art house, because it has a feel of, I don't fucking know. They were shaking the camera the whole time, and it was really fucking annoying, especially in the first scene, but it got better. Either I got used to it or they did it a little less. I don't really remember at this point, but at least in the start it was pissing me off. I just kind of got used to it, but all in all, it was alright. Compared to something like Ed Wood, wasn't completely excellent, and I don't know if I'd really watch it again, because I think just watching The Room on its own, like, it's kind of a cool piece, like, oh wow, interesting. But from what I understand, I haven't read the whole book. I've read little passages and shit online and shit, but from what I've heard, the book is a better companion to The Room, and on top of that, you have The Room itself. You don't even really need a companion to think The Room's a fucking hilarious movie. So, it was worth watching once. It was alright. I didn't hate the time. I thought it was a pretty good time, but it's not like some excellent movie. So, Aidan, what did you think?
It was okay. The problem is that the book is a fucking hell of a lot better. I mean, this was essentially a highlight reel of the book. James Franco didn't really capture Tommy well. Like, I think everyone else did pretty good, but the main problem, it's not a problem, I guess, but this movie shined when it was just like recapping things from the book visually, but they left out so much stuff that made the book special. Like, the book is weirdly emotional, and this had a little bit of that, but like, there's like half a chapter in the book dedicated to Greg breaking up with his girlfriend because of Tommy, and there's like a whole lot more stuff you see with Tommy where he's just like an awkward, lonely guy. And at the same time, there were so many like hilarious moments in the book that just couldn't be fit in the movie, like the Pledge of Allegiance, when Tommy made everyone do the Pledge of Allegiance and he couldn't say it right, and every time they laughed they would have to start over, so it took them 2 hours to get to the Pledge of Allegiance. Or like Greg and Tommy going out to the fancy restaurant and Tommy bullying the waiters and stuff. And like, obviously that wouldn't fit in the movie, but it's like, when it comes down to it, the movie is passable, and it had some moments that were genuinely pretty funny, but they're just moments taken from the book. And if you read the book is just like god tier hilarious all the way through, and like emotional and weird, and it's like the best behind the scenes book a movie has ever had for a movie that's just so hilarious on its own that this movie just kind of feels unnecessary in the end. I mean, it's
they try
shot
to
well.
make, like, I haven't read anything cohesively. I just read like articles with passages and shit, but did they kind of just make it like, and this one time Tommy was making us say the Pledge of Allegiance? Because this, they kind of tried to make a cohesive story, mainly focusing on the actual.
They did a play-by-play. The very first day on set was the Pledge of Allegiance thing, before they even started shooting, and they had like an emotional speech in this movie.
Could have fit it, but it would have been awkward. You know what I'm saying? Like, how it would be kind of awkward doing the
There's
time
a lot of
lapse
other
unless
stuff
they
too.
did something
They made-
like the scene where they're doing the tear it apart.
They
Lisa
kind
thing.
of they had to get permission to make this movie, so they smoothed over like a lot of the shit that Tommy did. Like, he had a couple scenes where he was an asshole, but in the book and in real life, he's a fucking asshole all the time. But also, Greg never really believed in it. He was just fucking poor, and Tommy was like, "I'll pay you a fucking shit ton of money because you're my friend to be in this movie." And so Greg was just like a fucking asshole too. He was just like a greedy asshole, where Tommy was just a fucking egomaniac asshole.
The 7 At the end, it said
They kinda-
Tommy and Greg are still working together. What fucking projects are they still working on?
But that's not the point.
I know they did a Tim and Eric sketch.
The point is, the movie's fine. If you read the book already and you've seen The Room, I mean, if you've seen The Room, you're going to get more enjoyment out of it. If you read the book, it's a visual representation of some of the best parts of the book. It's not amazing, but it does its job, and it's good. It's good enough. So Connor, would you recommend The Disaster Artist?
I kind of already went over this, but I'd recommend it. At least as like a companion to The Room. I wouldn't really watch it before The Room. I think part of this movie's problem is it's kind of like very different audience from The Room. Because this movie, even though it was a comedy, it was like an art house comedy in many ways, I would say. I mean, part of that vibe might have come from the fact that we were in like a 15-seat art house theater in downtown Duluth, where they're like, this is an art house theater. Paid for by you. Paid for you. Paid for you by the taxpayer. So thank you for paying $17 for your fucking movie ticket. Now enjoy the fucking movie. And there's fucking a bunch of hipsters and old ladies sitting there, like instead of laughing, they're like, ha ha ha. Like, it was like a kind of a weird vibe theater. So that might have been where I got it. But it did feel like
feet on my head.
Yeah, the old lady whipped her fucking feet on her head. That was kind of weird, but that's kind of besides the point as well. But yeah, no, she just fucking wedged in between the seat and started kicking me, and she was kicking the back of my seat the entire movie. But that was literally bizarre. But you know, point of the matter is, this movie kind of was advertised like an art house movie. And it was getting its dick sucked by a bunch of celebrities. And I know people who were like, I want to see that movie. Just like on its own because of James Franco. And without seeing The Room, I feel like this movie would be a really bad fucking movie. But seeing The Room,
it would be meaningless shit.
It would be meaningless. You'd be like, okay, what's going on? Like, we know the movie sucks. We see the scenes side by side at the end. But I think just seeing the funny, quotable parts doesn't really show anything with the movie, or like, that was kind of stupid. But you have to see the context. It's an hour 45-minute movie that makes no sense cohesively, is boring as all dog shit, and is just hilariously bad when it comes to lines. That's what makes it funny. So just without seeing The Room, and this only works as a companion piece to another movie. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you're gonna see this, watch The Room first and then watch this movie, and you'll probably get some enjoyment out of it like one time. I don't really know if it's one of those things where it's worth going back to repeatedly, unless you're like a cult fan of The Room who's seen The Room 1,000 times. I've seen The Room like 3 times, and I like the movie. Like, I like it as a funny movie. I think like Samurai Cop and shit's a little funnier than The Room, personally, but The Room it's a pretty funny movie to just, like, get fucking shit-faced to with a bunch of friends and just kind of laugh at how retarded it is. And in that respect, if you're a fan, watch the movie once or twice, but overall, from my reading and Aidan actually reading the entire book, my understanding is the book is more worthwhile than the movie. So probably read the movie, read the book a few times, watch the movie once or twice if you're a big Room fan, but unless you're an actual fan of The Room and like funny bad movies, I don't know if it's worth it. And then it kind of does get on that weird thing where it's like slightly art house, but this is about a funny bad movie. I feel like when I'm thinking of a funny bad movie, it's the absolute opposite of an art house movie, even though this is an art house comedy, but whatever. Sure, watch the movie if you are a fan of The Room, but if you have never seen The Room before, it's not worth watching at all. So Aidan, would you recommend this movie?
Yeah, if you've seen The Room, you can watch it. It's fine. But I would recommend buying or pirating the audiobook.
Covering your mouth like that's not saying or pirating.
The audiobook is narrated by Greg Sestero. And he does a killer Tommy Wiseau impression in the audiobook. And it's hilarious and it's great.
He impersonates Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah,
well,
every time he does Tommy, he does
probably has one of the best
the Tommy
impersonations because he knows the fucking guy personally.
Yeah, it's really
so
good.
You gotta have it down pat. Like, I can impersonate everyone I know.
He does the Tommy voice, and, you know, it's a really good audiobook, really good book. I would recommend the book or the audiobook a lot more than I would recommend the movie, but the movie's not bad. If you like The Room, you should watch it.